This building along Long Road was most recently a health centre, but closed in 2018 and has been sitting disused since. It was once perhaps Canvey's most substantial civic building, opening in 1934 as Canvey Island Urban District Council's offices. The district was newly created in 1926 when Canvey grew out of the Rochford Rural District. 5 years after the building was opened, the Second World War struck, and it was heavily fortified with sandbags against blast, but it survived both the war and then the 1953 floods. The building's appearance may look modest, but this was from a time when the island's modern infrastructure was still emerging. Externally, its design is simple in a traditional Neo-Georgian style, but its interior reflects cues of Art Deco in vogue at the time. In the late 1950s or early 60s, a rear extension was added, externally quite different, but internally influenced by the earlier style to blend it together. In March 2025, we were fortunate enough to be shown inside thanks to Castle Point Borough Council and document the neglected building. Inside, the building sat as it had when it closed 7 years ago, in parts modernised and in others still bearing a sense of the past. Before the health centre in later years, the offices were reused by Castle Point Borough Council from 1974, when Canvey Island Urban District was abolished. The building was then moved out of when Castle Point Council moved to Kiln Road around the 1990s. The upstairs sits more or less as it did when the council walked out several decades ago. It is sometimes quite hard to date some of the furnishings in the building, given that brown was popular both in the 1930s and later in the 1970s. This was the main stairwell leading out onto the pillared balcony. The centrepiece of the building was this, and it was an unexpected discovery. A small Art Deco style council chamber with a seamless curved ceiling and fine oak panelling. At its time, this would have been at the height of modernity. Apart from the lighting, it appears virtually unchanged and takes us back to pre-World War II Canvey. It is even fitted with these early storage heaters, clunky, but they would have warmed the building instead of a whole radiator system, perhaps another attempt to be modern. Subtle, yet elegant, but given the small size of the chamber, it is not surprising that post-World War II it was replaced when the rear extension of the building was added. The later chamber was larger and more conventional in its layout. Whilst different in style, some aspects, such as the oak panelling, still carried over. This chamber continued to be used right up until Castle Point Borough Council moved out. This is the lobby which connects the original building with the later extension. Again, some of the Art Deco influence can be seen in the staircase and skylights, even though it was built after the war. This area to the west of the original chamber was a small telephone exchange. Most of the equipment appears to have been modernised and removed, but its style of construction still feels authentic. On the other side of the original chamber was this room. Moving back downstairs, we get to this electrical cupboard, part original and part modern. Finally, we will cover the downstairs of the main building, and it is this section that was most recently used as the health centre. As such, it lacks much architectural interest or historic character, but it has been kept in quite good condition. The building has sat disused for several years now, kept alive by being heavily secured and the power kept running. But without a clear purpose for the future, who knows if this icon of Canvey's modern history will be around for much longer.